You're watching Reality Check. In the latest, almost surreal twist to the farm protest news cycle, a tweet from music superstar Rihanna, followed by a list of other famous and not so famous global figures tweeting about the farm protest, sparked a meltdown in New Delhi. The government predictably invoked the foreign hand and vested interests, and also attempted a choreographed counter campaign. Now, what's the evidence that the government is claiming of a deep global conspiracy behind the Rihanna tweets? At this stage, it appears sketchy at best. What is clear just by looking at the sequence of tweets and the timeline is that Rihanna was first off the block. She tweeted at around 8:59 p.m. on February 2nd yesterday. This is all Indian time, by the way, which would have been a different time zone from wherever she was, where she tweeted saying, "Why aren't we talking about the hashtag farmers protest," linking to a CNN piece on the protest. This was followed by Lily Singh, who's the comedian and YouTuber and talk show host, who tweeted at about 11 p.m. saying, "Yes, thank you so much, Rihanna. This is a humanity issue," and so on and so forth. This was followed by Amanda Cerny, an influencer and an actor, who tweeted shortly after at 11:30 p.m. Then Vanessa Nakate, a Ugandan climate justice activist, at about 11:50 p.m. Then Khaled Bayouni, a professor and writer, again at about midnight. Jamie Margolin, a climate activist, tweeting close to 1 a.m. And then another big name, Greta Thunberg, the climate activist, tweeted at about 1:34 in the morning saying, "We stand in solidarity with the hashtag farmers protest in India," linking to the same CNN piece. Followed by Claudia Webb, a UK member of parliament, who tweeted at around 2:11 in the morning saying, "Solidarity to Indian farmers, thank you Rihanna. In an era where political leadership is lacking, we're grateful for others for stepping forward." Now, Claudia Webb also tweeted saying that she had collected number of signatures which she believes makes this issue eligible for a debate in UK Parliament. She says, "I've collected over 1 lakh of signatures, and now the farm law issue, which includes the law and what she describes as a crackdown on activists and journalists and protesters, can be debated in the UK Parliament." Shortly afterwards, Elizabeth Wathuti, a Kenyan environment and climate activist, this is at about 2:12 in the morning, tweeting about the farmer protest. Representative Jim Costa, who's a Democrat congressman from California, tweeted at about 4:30 in the morning, saying, "The unfolding events in India are troubling. As a member of the Foreign Affairs Committee, I'm closely monitoring the situation." And then Meena Harris, who's the Vice President of America, Kamala Harris's niece, tweeting at about 5 in the morning of February 3rd, saying that these protests need to be taken seriously. The Indian Foreign Ministry somewhat unusually put out a statement, quote-unquote, scolding these global tweeters, saying it's unfortunate to see vested interest groups trying to enforce their agenda. Some of these vested interests have tried to mobilize international support against India. Before rushing to comment on such matters, we would urge that the facts be ascertained. The temptation of sensationalist social media hashtags and comments, especially when resorted to by celebrities and others, it said, is neither accurate nor responsible. This was followed by a kind of pro-government tweet storm. The MEA tweet itself, again unusually, had a hashtag, India against propaganda and India together. This hashtag was used by a number of other ministers and government figures like Nirmala Sitharaman, the finance minister, Kiran Rijiju, Minister of State for Youth Affairs, tweeting also Hardeep Singh Puri, Minister for Housing and Urban Affairs and Civil Aviation, then followed by a bunch of celebrities, Akshay Kumar, Karan Johar, Ajay Devgan, even Sachin Tendulkar and Sunil Shetty, all tweeting with this same hashtag in defense of the government broadly. What was interesting about the Sunil Shetty tweet in particular, because many were saying this has been choreographed by the government or by the ruling party, is that he perhaps inadvertently tagged someone called Hitesh Jain in his tweet. And Hitesh Jain, as we're putting on the screen for you, is actually a member, according to his Twitter bio, of the BJP. Now, as far as the anti-farm protest tweeters are concerned, again, this question of was this some kind of organized effort? And as I said at the outset, there doesn't seem to be too much evidence to suggest that, other than Greta Thunberg sharing an anti-farm law protest toolkit, as she put it. It's a manual to which she provided a link which offers how-to tips to protest against the farm laws. For example, it talks of a Twitter storm on the 4th or 5th of February, which is being planned. It asks anyone who wants to participate to organize protests, make videos, call local representatives. It also contains sample tweets on the farm protests, which people can cut and paste and use to tweet. It doesn't quite make it clear who's behind all of this. Multiple organizations are mentioned in this protest manual, which is a Google Doc, so it can be edited by multiple people. But there are links to an organization called the Poetic Justice Foundation, which seems to be one of the websites or one of the groups that is providing material to people who want to take part in these global protests. All right, joining me tonight on the show, I have with me Kamal Sibal, former Foreign Secretary. We have Suhasini Haider of The Hindu. We have Kulwant Singh Sandhu, General Secretary, Jamhuri Kisan Sabha, Punjab. But let me start with KC Singh, former diplomat and strategic affairs expert. Mr. Singh, were you somewhat surprised when the Foreign Ministry came out with a pretty strong statement, essentially in response to what appears to be tweets by individuals, celebrities, global celebrities?
Well, I was, because I hadn't heard, what all you mentioned now, and GRETA now starting off a Twitter storm. I hadn't heard of that, or there's any organization. One only saw Rihanna's thing, and one thought that this was probably an overreaction. Because after all, and the statement is too long, it's also not entirely accurate.
Right.
Because it says the bill was rightly passed and so on and so forth, when the opposition always said the division was not granted to them.
Right.
Then it says it's only very few farmers in a few places in India. Well, now it turns out that you've got the Mahapanchayats in Haryana, you've got Mahapanchayats in UP, you of course had it in Punjab. So really, your whole of Northwest India is up in arms. So you can't just say it's very few farmers in a few places.
Right.
There are a great number of farmers in certainly one part of India, which is Northwest India, which is the granary of India. So you can't just ignore it. But I thought the lengthy statement, it really, what was the point of it? Because you really brought the focus back on something, which came from probably because she has 100 million followers. So obviously BJP went ballistic over that. And then you start a counter reaction, and starting with the most intemperate person who supports BJP, coming out with almost a cantankerous, abusive tweet, calling her she's a fool and so on and so forth. Now, this is not the way to deal with international public opinion, wherever it's coming from. I thought India had a more sophisticated, India could adopt a more sophisticated approach. I'm a former spokesman.
Yes.
And the spokesman, as a spokesman, you would moderate it.
Right.
But I think this is a statement which has, this is probably a statement given to the spokesman. I don't think it's drafted in Ministry of External Affairs. It's obviously a statement which has come from a political level.
Right.
And then he's handed it out.
Okay. So, Asni, as Mr. Singh was saying, I mean, what sense did you get from the MEA? Because for the MEA not only to tweet in response to basically like a pop star, and then also to use hashtags in its tweet, which is very typical of a certain kind of BJP IT cell playbook, all not normally par for the course.
Yeah, and I really do think that whoever has written that particular statement, as Mr. Singh, Ambassador Singh pointed out right now, it has many inaccuracies in it. It is also very curious because it seems to be contradicting itself. On the one hand, it is criticizing people for talking about the farm laws without having read them. On the other hand, it says the government itself is willing to put the laws on hold. It says negotiations are continuing. It says that all the protests should be seen in the context of a democracy in India. So on the one hand, you don't have a problem with the protesters. You don't have a problem with people saying that the farm laws should be revoked. In fact, the government seems to be suggesting from this particular statement that they're willing to put the laws on hold, and now it's putting the Prime Minister's name right there. The Prime Minister has said he's willing to put the law on hold, even though so far the negotiations have been held at a ministerial level. So you see all these statements being made, And yet, what is the purpose? The statement is addressed to foreign individuals and entities. Does the Ministry of External Affairs now respond to foreign individuals and entities? Is this what the government of India really wants to project around the world?
Right.
So, I mean, I find there are many places where I can quibble and I can, I can say, all right, they're entitled to put their views across. But to put out a statement that contradicts itself, to put out a statement that takes on individuals, and while you've made a very commendable list of individuals, I think they were referring to maybe only one or two of the top Twitter handles that had tweeted when they put out the statement. And then to have members of the Indian cabinet refer to them, talk about India's sovereignty. Is India's sovereignty being put in doubt by the tweet of Rihanna? I mean, the whole thing just boggles the mind.
Okay.
Very abnormal behavior here.
No, that's so, Mr. Sibal. I mean, I can understand that if India was getting challenged by governments or by individuals who might represent governments, but here to go into this kind of a rhetoric in response to essentially tweets by a pop star and some climate activist, does that really serve our cause on the global stage?
What do you want the government to do? Not say anything? Just keep quiet?
Ignore it.
Let this international campaign get built up. And behind this, there is obviously a very smart PR company which is roping in these celebrities. There is some strategic thinking behind this. We know that parts of the diaspora are behind this. There are lobbies in United States and Britain in particular, which are behind this. They want to internationalize this. They want to make the task of settling this issue even more difficult by encouraging the farmers. I don't understand. And why does the External Affairs Ministry have an external publicity division? What for? If they're not going to react.
No, but these are individuals, as I said.
It doesn't have to always be governments. After all, social media has become a very powerful tool in the hands of campaigners all over the world if they want to bring a particular government into disrepute or actually make an issue of all sorts of prejudices that they have and campaign in favor of that. Or give a very high profile to issues in which they are interested is being used. So what's wrong with the government?
You're saying what's wrong?
Why
even you're saying even if it's individuals,
the government shouldn't do anything.
Right. You're saying even if it's individuals, what's the harm? But
no, it's not individual. There is a campaign behind it. Come on, let's be honest with ourselves. These are not. After all, why should GRETA Thunberg or this lady Rihanna tweet on an issue of which they have absolutely no understanding? Who has put them up to it? Somebody has manipulated that.
Well, when you say,
so therefore, please look at that. Who is
no, Mr. Sibal, again, when we say manipulated, isn't it entirely legitimate for groups that do advocacy on issues to reach out to prominent people and say, listen, this is a cause, we think it's important, can you draw attention to it? Why?
But do you think that these people shouldn't have a mind of their own and assess what they're being asked to do and understand the issue? Come on. Let's be honest with ourselves.
No, why would
Don't
they
have
do it
a mind
otherwise?
of their own? They should just sign off on anything that somebody says. Are they getting paid for this? Do they want publicity out of this, personal publicity? Do they want to sort of make a name for themselves, that they are attaching themselves to big causes? What is the farmers' cause, especially when in the case of Punjab, there's a huge climate change issue, and this Greta Thunberg, who's supposed to be the mascot of climate change issues, is totally disregarding the climate change issues involved in Punjab. The stubble burning,
let me just get in
groundwater
Kulwant Singh
depletion and everything
All right,
else.
let me just get in Kulwant Singh Sandhu. Our line to you is a little shaky, but Kulwant Singh Sandhu, he's General Secretary, Jamhuri Kisan Sabha Punjab. मेरी आवाज आ रही है? Can you hear me, sir, clearly?
Yes.
Okay. Just wanted to ask you that this suggestion that this whole thing that the Rihanna and others tweeting is part of some kind of campaign.
Please ask in Hindi or Punjabi. Hindi.
हाँ, मेरा सवाल ये था कुलवंत सिंह जी कि ये जो कहा जा रहा है कि ये जो पूरा कैंपेन है ये किसी तरह से ऑर्केस्ट्रेट किया गया है और रिहाना वगैरह को क्या पैसे वैसे देके ट्वीट किया गया है, क्या इसके पीछे साजिश के बारे में आरोप लगाया जा रहा है? आप कुछ इस पे जानकारी दे सकते हैं?
इसके बारे में
नहीं, ये जो सारे ट्वीट्स आए हैं
रिहाना के बारे में।
हाँ जी, रिहाना के बारे में। तो इसके बारे में
रिहाना क्या बोलती है, फिल्म एक्टर क्या बोलते हैं
जी,
सेलिब्रिटी क्या बोलती है, आपको उन दोनों के बारे में जानना चाहिए। किसानों ने दोनों शुरू किया है अपनी आने वाली पीढ़ियों के लिए, अपनी खेती बचाने के लिए। हम किसी इंडिविजुअल को क्या बोलते हैं, इंडिविजुअल कुछ ही बोल सकते हैं। अक्षय कुमार कुछ बोलेगा, धर्मेंद्र कुछ बोलेगा, सनी देओल कुछ बोलेगा। जो हमारी सपोर्ट में बोलते हैं उनको वेलकम करते हैं, जो अगेंस्ट बोलते हैं उनको कंडेम करते हैं। जो भी सपोर्ट करेगा उसको तो वेलकम करेंगे जी। 192 जो हम सपोर्ट कर रहे हैं, ये मुद्दा कोई पंजाब का, हरियाणा का नहीं रहा, ये पूरे भारत का भी नहीं, ये तो इंटरनेशनल इशू बन गया है। ये इशू है कोई कारपोरेट सिस्टम लाना है कि लोगों को जीने का अधिकार देना है।
अच्छा, तो आप कह रहे हैं कि जो भी सपोर्ट कर रहे हैं वो आप उसको वेलकम करते हैं, बट केसी सिंह
जो सपोर्ट कर वो वेलकम करेंगे, जो अपोज कर रहे हैं उनको कंडेम
करेंगे, आप कंडेम करेंगे। ठीक है,
किसी एक इंडिविजुअल पर इशू क्यों डालना चाहते हो? इशू की बात करो ना, इशू कौन सा है? इशू हमारा राइट है कि रॉन्ग है?
ठीक है, focus on the issue. KC Singh, but what do you make of what Mr. Sibal said, that what is the big deal if the foreign ministry is reacting, even if it's an individual, social media has now changed the rules of the game?
No, there's absolutely nothing wrong with it. We are just saying the length and the script and the arguments given in that. Just to get back to that, Rihanna actually had 2 tweets. If you go to her account, the one tweet is only about saying she's retweeting a CNN news story.
Yeah.
She's not creating a story. She simply said, let's pay attention to it.
Yes.
And the second one is hashtag Myanmar. So I think, for anyone with a global audience, with her reach, worth $500 million, I'm sure she can't be bought off. So she's from Barbados. I'm sure she has more than a sprinkling of information about India. She has been brought up. The Indians who are there in Barbados. So she would have known and met Indians and when she was growing up in that country. So for whatever reason, she's picked up 2 places where she thought democracy is under stress.
Right.
And she's tweeted it.
Okay.
Now the way to answer that is to say, no, this is not so. And put it out. There's no need to give such a lengthy response. There's no need to then get counter tweets coming in and start a digital war. Where you actually brought more focus on it.
Right.
Rather than letting it just die away, tweets come, tweets disappear. You've actually brought more focus on it.
Right. Suhasini?
I just want to make the point, firstly, why are we discussing Rihanna's tweet at all? She's asking, should we not be discussing farmers' protests? They're great. It's a spectacle. There's a lot of pictures. There's a lot of people in those protests. And really, if she wants to tweet about it, that should be absolutely fine. I want to ask the counter question: if we think that Rihanna and Greta Thunberg and all these other people are part of some grand international conspiracy against India, firstly, I mean, it seems to be a grand international conspiracy that rears its head every few months, whether it was the CA, Jammu and Kashmir, whether it's been, all kinds of issues with the government over here. And I do want to ask the question, so are Sachin Tendulkar and Ajay Devgan and Sunil Shetty and a whole host of other Indian celebrities who seem to be tweeting identical language on their Twitter, are they part of then some conspiracy as well? I mean, I think beyond a point, the sheer, I don't want to use the word, but the sheer puerile nature of this debate takes away from the more serious debate. What is the Ministry of External Affairs doing, reacting to these statements by individuals around the country? Are they going to, send them démarches next? And why is the government of India just so sensitive? I have a list here of things the government has said just in the last 2 months. In Sri Lanka, we have issued statements about the Sri Lankan government's delays in adopting the constitutional amendments that deal with devolution in the Tamil areas, in the northern areas. In Nepal, we constantly have statements about either the constitution or how the government is moving. Myanmar, we just made a statement. Prime Minister Narendra Modi tweeted about the situation on Capitol Hill just a few weeks ago. We have spoken in the past on the Maldives, on Pakistan. It seems like a daily MEA statement goes out about some issue that is happening inside Pakistan. I really don't understand why the Ministry of External Affairs would take away from much more serious interventions that it makes quite openly around the world by issuing a statement which frankly doesn't even look, I mean, Ambassador Sibal can tell us better, or perhaps Ambassador Singh, it doesn't even look like it's been drafted by someone in the Ministry of External Affairs.
Ambassador Sibal, you know, quite apart from people like Rihanna and Greta Thunberg tweeting, who are essentially individuals and are essentially saying, look, this is an issue, pay attention to it. What would I would assume be more concerning for the MEA, for the Indian government, is the fact that you now have lawmakers in England and the US who appear to be mobilizing some kind of almost a campaign or support for this cause. We saw there the Member of Parliament in the UK saying that she's going to try to engineer a debate in the UK Parliament on this issue. Now, the fact that things have reached to that stage, isn't that something which is actually should have been the real focus of the Foreign Ministry's intervention? And is there a certain kind of a little bit of a lapse there in our being able to firefight where it counts?
So you think that we should have ignored the social media altogether? Is that it? Is that the argument? Look, the UN Secretary General's office has commented on the farmers' protest. The Human Rights Commissioner in Geneva has commented on the farmers' protests. UK MPs have done that earlier. When Dominic Raab, their foreign minister, came here, he in fact said that, look, you know, it may be your internal problem, but it has also become our internal problem because of the Sikh diaspora, Indian diaspora there. And US congressmen have always been interfering in such matters in India before, so it's nothing new. So that is one.
I'm saying
issue we have to deal with. The other issue is that
if foreign governments,
there is an effort to internationalize this, and social media is also now being used to internationalize this. Therefore, I see nothing wrong in Ministry of External Affairs reacting to this. Why are we just minimizing that there is a mind behind this, there is a strategy behind this, there are finances behind this? Why are we averting our eyes to that?
Hold on. When you
why should tell me, why should this lady, this singer, want to speak about farmers' protest, even if she had met Indians in Barbados? What is the reason why she should do so? What for? What does she want to do? Posturing, looking good,
no, but Mr. Sibal,
not understanding the issue one bit,
this is a very
and
strange
still
argument. I find it
simply
surprising.
Because she has a few million followers,
free to comment on
that she has the last word.
She's free to comment on anything she likes. She's commented on Myanmar. She's commented on Beirut. I mean, if you go to her timeline, she's commented on internal race politics in America. She's commented on
let her sing. Let her entertain people. Let her do what she does best, rather than wading into issues she doesn't understand at all.
Mr. Sibal, that's very surprising on a day when a host of Indian celebrities have actually all tweeted in support of the farm laws. Would you say the same thing to them?
But that's in reaction to this. That's in reaction. They didn't take the initiative in this.
But the principle of it, that if you're a singer, you can't comment on a political issue, how? I don't understand. Why not?
But there is one set of celebrities who are now reacting against the initiative taken by other celebrities, which is totally out of order, which is irrelevant. Even if they have been prompted by the government, it's perfectly fine.
My question
if
was
the mastermind behind this internationalization of this is using all means available, let the government also use all means available. What's wrong?
Okay, but my question, let me try to take that question to KC Singh. My question, KC Singh, was that isn't it more substantive to try to focus on the fact that you might be seeing lawmakers in other countries trying to amplify this, perhaps even lead to conversations in Parliament and other such fora? Isn't that really where the MEA should be doing its diplomacy, publicly or privately?
No, let me broaden the question. The question is, in today's world, seamless digital connection all over, India moving up, India joining hands with democracies around the world. Quad is a combination of 4 democracies of the Asia Pacific.
Right.
Now, if other countries hold you to a higher standard, we aspire to get to that level. People respect India for being a democracy. But then if they say, guys, you're falling short of a certain standard, we get very irritated by that. Now, I was just checking up on the Capitol attack. Chancellor Merkel soundly criticized America. President Macron soundly criticized them. The British government criticized them. A number of European leaders said, this is not who America is. You can't have this happen. And this is when the President of America was inciting a mob. Right. And even then the European allies said it. So we shouldn't be that sensitive to it. The question is, let's look within, let's fix it here.
Okay.
If you're going to be putting nails in roads, you're going to be putting up pictures which look like, it's Berlin before 1989. And then, naturally, internationally, those images and those pictures evoke a certain angst about India, which is seen as a great democracy, as the counterpoint to China, rather than acting worse than China.
Okay. Well, let's see how it plays itself out, but it certainly was a highly unusual twist to the ongoing conversation. We're completely out of time. Thank you all so much for joining me on Reality Check. You made a great panel. Thank you so much for watching. Good night.